Agat Alas Count Corda. Well, I've listened to what people on all sides of the debate have had to say, and I think it's useful just to recap at this juncture what we're agreed on. So what we're agreed on and what we know is that it is better for older people to live at home and to be cared for at home. There's a unanimous view across the Dáil on that matter. We also know that, quite aside from the social desirability and the dignity concerns of people living and being cared for at home, that it also adds up economically. I think we're agreed on that too. The Carers Association, the organisation, the voluntary organisation for carers all across the country, was in today on a lobbying exercise because they, like others, are very fearful of what might come in December's budget. And they very usefully set out in tabular format the pounds, shillings and pence, or the euros and cents, as to why it makes economic sense, cost-saving sense, to keep and to care for people in their own homes. I think they have that argument won, game, set and match, and I think we all subscribe to that view. That is what makes your position on this matter all the more astonishing. You see, perhaps unlike others, at this stage, a year and a half into your government, I'm not hugely surprised that you would try again to hit at those that you deem to be vulnerable. I'm not surprised at all that deputies from across Labour and Fine Gael are now so craven that they will come into this chamber and defend what they know to be indefensible and try and point to a distraction and run for cover. You see, none of that surprises me now. That's your form. But what astonishes me is that when something is so self-evidently not just right and equitable, but cost-effective, from the government that obsesses on the need for adjustments and fiscal responsibility and good housekeeping, that same government will turn its face from the evidence that tells you the smart thing to do, the economic thing to do, is to ensure that people are cared for at home. But that's not what you want to do. We know that since 2008, cuts to home help hours have been of the magnitude of 20%. That's since 2008. But precisely half of that total cut is happening and will happen on your watch. So from February of 2011 up to the end of this year, we will see a further drop of 1 million hours from the system. So don't rewind the tape of history and say this is all Fianna Fáil's fault. This is Fine Gael and Labour's choice. You are choosing to do this. And of course, the drop in those hours has had and will have further real consequences for people. Deputy Adams referred to just one example. An elderly woman returning home after a hip replacement with mobility issues to be insulted with the offer of half an hour's home help. Now, I don't know, Minister Reilly, if you have experience in your life of getting a child ready for school, of bathing a child, or of caring for an older person. But let me tell you this much as a statement of fact. You're not going to get a whole pile done for an elderly person who is in any way compromised within the restrictions of half an hour. And let me tell you something more. You'll do even less for that person if their allocation is as low as 15 minutes. 15 minutes of a morning. That's what was allocated to one of my constituents, a person with very complex health needs and a very complex medical history, a person needing care and attention. 15 minutes to take this person from bed, to bathe this person, 15 minutes is not going to see those tasks done. And here's the real cynicism of your approach. You know that carers and home helpers epitomise the decency of community and voluntary effort, but also of public service. You know that. And you are counting on the probability, the possibility that whilst only 15 minutes is officially allocated and paid for, that the decent carer, the decent helper will stay on and see the person right. I think you're gambling on that decency, and it makes your cynicism all the more disgusting to me. Your amendment to our motion is very curious, and it's actually very revealing, because it's full of self-congratulation, welcoming all and sundry, giving yourself a great pat on the back. Well, answer me this. What have you to be proud of? For €8 million to take that amount of hours out of the home care system and to leave older people, vulnerable people, sick people, in many cases, in such jeopardy? Why would anybody with a grain of decency or sanity welcome that? One of your colleagues in the course of the debate this evening, a Fine Gael deputy, chided us on the Sinn Féin benches for our motion. He ran the predictable line around identifying sources of funding. Of course, he knows full well that we accept, of course, services have to be funded. He knows full well that this year, like every other, we'll put forward our proposals on that score. But he said in the course of his contribution, he said, everyone, very sincerely, everyone is against cuts. Really? Is everyone in this Dáil against cuts to home help hours? Is everyone in Fine Gael, was that man speaking for his own party, against cuts to home help hours? Because if that was a statement of fact, well then we wouldn't have your amendment before us, and every TD here would do right by carers, by home helps, by the elderly, and would support the Sinn Féin motion. Sometimes when criticisms are made of policy decisions, of adjustments, of cutbacks, your cover is that the quantum of savings is so great that you have no option but to face into what you deem to be a tough choice for yourselves. With this mean-minded, indecent cut to home help, you're looking to save €8 million. In the grander scheme of the health budget, that is frankly loose change. And I honestly don't know how, taking account of economic value for money, the real needs of citizens in their homes, how you can, with any credibility, Minister Reilly, argue for or proceed with these cuts. You were forced by people with disabilities. You were forced to back down on your proposal to take away from them personal assistance. You were forced to do that. You should, if you had any semblance of decency about you, voluntarily retreat from these cuts in respect of home helps. And you laid the seeds of your own disaster if you proceed with this cut. And I'll finish on this last, Ceann Comhairle, because the acute hospitals are over budget and under strain. You know this on your watch. You're clearly adverse to public nursing home beds. You've certainly closed enough of them. And now the next line of attack is in respect of home helps. A cut like this will mean greater illness and vulnerability amongst older people. It will mean that more of them will need more expensive medical intervention. It will mean more of them in hospital. And sadly, given the current state of the service, it will mean more of our elderly citizens on hospital trolleys.
I now call in